Chapter 34. The Start of Something New. L. Lily ducked lower in her hood, strained to hear conversations through the haze of stale ale and boisterous laughter. A year had passed since the war ended, but the scars it left, both on the land and its people, still lingered. Humans were resilient, though. They had rebuilt quickly, their bustling city a testament to their determination to move forward. One of her new favorite pastimes was sneaking around the city, hood pulled low to avoid attention, observing the humans. It grounded her in a way that nothing else could. Sweat prickled her skin despite the chill seeping from the flagstones. Taverns weren't her forte, but whispers were her currency tonight, and these humans' establishments overflowed with them. A voice, rough as burlap and steeped in battles, boomed across the floor.
"Did you see them? Elf delegation, all shiny and spotless, silver like the moonlight and banners flashing like fire in the sunrise."
News of the embassy traveled fast. They'd ridden by the square only about 30 minutes ago.
"Still remember when they saved our hides,"
another voice chimed in, lower and laced with ale.
"Turn the tide at the King's Hill like swatting flies."
Lily clenched her fists, the memories of the battle stirring both pride and anxiety within her.
"King made a pact with them, they say,"
the first voice continued, a thread of suspicion woven into his words.
"Elf gates open now, for those brave enough,"
he said. A scoff cut through the air.
"If you got the time and the coin to gallivant off to Elfland, you're not working hard enough."
It was an excuse Lily had heard many times, some sincerely, but most didn't feel worthy to enter such a holy place. Basking in the light was one thing. Reaching too greedily, it could leave a man burned. "Did you see their commander at the back of the procession? The one with golden hair, willowy as a birch," a woman said. "I thought the soldiers were exaggerating when they said he cleaved through the berserkers like a farmer through wheat. But when I saw him with that long sword, shades take me if I didn't believe it to be true." Lily felt a pang of sadness. She should have gone to greet him. But Elion was a complicated matter. He loved her, and she knew she should reciprocate. Her thoughts were cut short as the gossip continued. "I've heard that crazy bastard Darkstone stands toe-to-toe with him in duels," someone added.
"What unmitigated drivel," came a protest. "Haldor is a hero, yes, but to stand toe-to-toe with the creature of legend?" The man shook his head. "That's unthinkable, isn't it?"
He didn't sound so sure. Lily understood their hesitation. After all, these were times when myths walked the earth. Ghalen had become the first royal in history to bring the Elgaric into the fold of the kingdoms. Elgaric chieftains had visited and declared Ghalen, or as they called him, the King of Stone, an honor walker. Not that anyone here truly understood what it meant. Nobody seemed to care much either. The Elgaric trade had brought better lumber and hides than the kingdom had ever seen, and for the common folk, that was more than enough. For the noble houses, the massive streams of trade silenced any thoughts of scheming against the crown. The elves had also come to honor the coronation and the official union of Ghalen and Fina. As the priestess prepared to ascend as their queen, the kingdom brimmed with joy. Bards were composing new songs, merchants sold fresh garlands, and the festive air was palpable. Lily paused at the chapter break, slipping a ribbon between the pages of her book before glancing up. Across the chamber, Tassara sat curled in the window alcove, murmuring through a passage of scripture. Her lips moved as she read, brow furrowed in concentration. The heavy tome rested on her knees, far too big for her slight frame, but she carried its weight like it belonged there. After the war, Ghalen and Fina had taken her in, Pior's daughter, the last of his line. At first, she'd hardly spoken, a quiet shadow, polite but distant, drifting between rooms. It had taken months of gentle hands and patience before the edges of that silence waned. And then, one day, she came home from her faith studies with a strange, bright fire behind her eyes. No more sulking, she'd said. She was going to be strong, a real priestess, one who protected the weak, like her father had taught her. Lily smiled at the memory, her fingers resting against the closed book. "Everything's in order, High Priestess. We are ready to leave when you are." the court attendant said as she stepped back from the dressing mirror, finishing the last braid in Fina's hair. Fina exhaled, hands clenched in her lap. What do you think, Lily? Don't I look like a complete fool? Lily looked her over from where she sat, sprawled across the bed. You look every bit the queen you're about to become, Fina. She gave a slow nod, then turned to Tessara with a wink. The fairest in all the land, isn't she, Tessara? At that, the young girl sprang up, thudding across the carpet and launching herself into Lily's lap. Her nod was so forceful, her curls bounced.
She is, Auntie, like Tiana herself.
G. At the wedding, Haldor would stand beside Ghalen, not as tradition dictated by a father or a brother, but as the nearest thing Ghalen had to kin. Dressed in the finery befitting a city's noble, Haldor looked every inch the part.
I know you don't like to be the center of attention. Forgive me for putting you in this position,
Ghalen said. Haldor straightened.
I'd have been slighted if you hadn't. We're brothers in all but blood.
A smile touched Galen's lips.
That's new. Always thought your opinion was it looked unkempt,
he said, gesturing with his fingers at his upper lip. Haldor cleared his throat.
Well, yes, but I made a bet with Pyor. I said I'd grow a mustache if you ever got the courage to.
Ghalen cut him off with a clap on his shoulder.
No need to defend yourself. It suits you.
Galen's gaze wandered to the bustling streets below before returning to Haldor.
I fear the challenges have only just begun. Our people will need us once more.
Stepping up beside him, Haldor answered. Ghalen shook his head, expression earnest.
I'll guard you with my life, so you can answer that call.
Ghalen shook his head, expression earnest.
You're more than just a skilled swordsman. You have one of the keenest minds in this land.
He filled 2 goblets with wine, offering one to Haldor.
It's high time you emerged from your father's shadow. I've asked before, and I won't command it of you, but I won't accept a refusal either. Lead our forces. Be our Lord Marshal.
Haldor sighed as he looked out the window, overlooking the city.
He asked me what I wanted, and not what my father wanted me to do. That great oaf.
He looked back at Ghalen.
I will accept your bloody offer.
F. The high temple of Lumar hummed with anticipation. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, casting colored diamonds on the polished stone floor. The gathered guests fell silent as the choir's voices, pure and harmonic, rose in hymns. Then, all eyes turned to the grand archway at the far end of the aisle, and Fina flung back into the hallway she was peeking from. She was only 1 step away from their sight. She turned to Lily. Can I go through with this? I'm going to sob like a novice. Tell me something to get my thoughts straight. She paused, staring in disbelief as Lily was sobbing beside her.
I'm sorry. You're so beautiful. You can do this. Go and be the queen you were meant to be.
They embraced and turned back towards the hall. Here it goes, then, Fina said as she took another step. She was a vision in white silk that shimmered like moonlight. Her gown, embroidered with silver fishes and shimmering stars, trailed behind her like a river, as she walked, accompanied by a teary-eyed Lily. Ghalen, clad in armor, polished to a sheen, his silver eye patch, waited at the altar, his gaze glistening and smile wide. The old priest, grey-walled, his weathered face etched with wisdom, began the ceremony. His voice, deep and resonant, filled the temple with solemnity and sanctity of their union. The hall fell silent as Fina stepped forward to speak her vows. You have the courage of a lion and the stubbornness of a mule. Her eyes found Galen's steady gaze. Both traits that frustrate and inspire me in equal measure. But when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of ceremony and tradition. Before Lumar's eternal light and in the presence of our people, Fina began, her voice clear and unwavering. I, Finavera Maldif, High Priestess of Lumar, pledge myself to you, Ghalen Whitmore, King of this united isle. I vow to stand as your equal in all things, in counsel during times of peace, in strength during times of trial. May our union serve not only our hearts, but our people. binding crown and temple in sacred trust. Under Lumar's blessing, I give you my loyalty, my wisdom, and my devotion for all the days of our lives. My port in the storm," she added silently, a small smile touching her lips as she washed his face.
"The one who makes the impossible seem within reach."
The crowd murmured their approval, the ancient words carrying through the vaulted space with reverent power. Ghalen stepped forward, and Fina could see him steadying himself, a nervous habit she learned to recognize. When he spoke, his voice was controlled, formal, though she caught the slight tremor that betrayed his emotion.
"Before Lumar's sacred light, and witnessed by our realm,"
he began.
"I, Ghalen Whitmore, king by right and duty, bind myself to you, Finavera Maldive, high priestess and keeper of our sacred texts. I pledge to honor you as my queen, my counsel, and my partner in all endeavors. Together, we shall serve our people with wisdom and justice, uniting the strength of the crown with the sanctity of the temple. I offer you my protection, my trust, and my unwavering devotion until the end of my days. And I love you with all my heart."
His eyes seemed to say, though the words remained unspoken in this sacred public moment. When Greywald blessed their union and their lips met in the ceremonial kiss, the silence shattered. Cheers erupted like thunder, echoing through the vaulted ceilings. The temple bells, long silenced, boomed to life, their chimes spreading across the city, not just a marriage, but the formal union of crown and temple. Laughter filled the air, tears of happiness fell, and cheers rose to the heavens. H. 3 days after the wedding, Haldor Darkstone, clothed in the regalia of the Lord Marshal, supreme commander of banners on the Isle, stood before every liege lord bound to the king. His face was a mask, chiseled and unyielding. The old man leading the ceremony was his father, a man of many winters, but still processing the stature of his younger days, especially in his Kingsguard uniform. Songs and tales spoke of him, the mightiest and most cunning commander the Kingsguard had ever seen. As he walked past the assembled lords, their bows were deep, as if they were in the presence of their king. Haldor's lips curled into a rare, fleeting smile. It had been ages since he'd seen his father in that garb. Stopping in front of his son, his father posed the ancient question.
"Do I stand before one willing to fall upon his sword for his king and land?"
Haldor's voice rang clear.
"You do, Lord of the Halls."
His father's gaze did not waver.
"And do I stand before one ready to bear the pains of the few to shield the many?"
A hint of distaste flickered across Haldor's face, a sentiment shared by both Darkstones. They believed in saving everyone or perishing in the attempt. Still, Haldor responded.
"You do."
Kneeling, his father presented the storied blade. Durendal, a relic more ancient than the kingdom itself. Accepting the weapon, Haldor watched as his father rose, his voice filled with gravitas.
"By the decree of the High King, I, Daviom Darkstone."
Haldor thought he could hear a crack in his father's voice. But that was impossible.
"Name you Lord Marshal of Arania."
As Haldor hoisted the blade aloft, a chorus rose from the assembly. "Hail the Lord Marshal!" Haldor's stony facade betrayed nothing. Yet, in the echoing chants, his father, in a rare departure from tradition, laid a hand on Haldor's shoulder. The corners of his lips turned upwards, and in a voice barely audible amidst the clamor, he said,
"You've honored us all, son. Every Darkstone."
Was that a tear in his father's eye? No, it could not be. It would be easier to squeeze a rock for water. As swiftly as a moment came, it passed, and his father resumed his stoic, regal bearing. But the walls Haldor had so meticulously built were breached. He blinked rapidly, casting a desperate glance about the hall, seeking refuge from the swell of emotion. A lone tear betrayed his eye, tracing a path down his cheek. He would not allow another. Yet, beneath it all, a warmth spread through him. G. Sitting in the royal dining hall, Haldor was in deep discussion with Elion. The two had grown a friendship over the last year. The two understood each other. Countless hours spent with their blades had sharpened their minds and had attuned them to each other. Fina was talking to Thessara. The girl could not get enough of their studies. She wanted nothing more than to become a priestess so she could travel the lands with Haldor and see all the places she and her dad had dreamed of visiting. Lily leaned in and spoke to Ghalen. "Have you given any thought to the council's offer, Ghalen? I believe she could be great at bridging the gap between our people. And I sense she is destined for greatness," she said, looking intently at Thessara. Ghalen gnawed at his lower lip.
I will speak to her. Fina thinks she has a gift with the light, and I could see no greater honor. But I will not pressure her into it. If she is to live and train with the elves, it must be her decision.
Elion and Egwina, ambassadors of the elves, had arrived to honor the union of Ghalen and Fina. However, a secondary mission veiled their visit to console Ghalen on the looming threat of war. Their keen eyes swept over the gathering, Haldor's expression giving nothing away. Fina, quiet determination radiating from her. Ghalen, kingly posture. Nelrith, ever curious, her gaze flitted between the elves and her companions. And Wyrek, the weight of Ilskar's post-war burdens etched on his face. Lily, having relinquished her official seat, chose not to participate in the deliberations. Elion unfurled 12 sealed letters. "These pledges," he announced, his voice resonating in the chamber, "are intended for you, King Ghalen." Drawing a deep breath, he adopted a more formal tone. "The High Seat of the Elves, on behalf of all within the Sunwoods, proposes an alliance. As amends for past transgressions, we offer aid in rebuilding the human kingdom. Under the banner of Arania, we pledge to share our vast knowledge of sun magic, combat, and history. In return, we expect a mutual exchange, ensuring that our realms stand united against future adversity." The humans exchanged skeptical looks. Ghalen spoke.
That is a generous offer, Commander. What we might give in return pales in comparison.
Edwina set down her wineglass with a soft chime, rising to address the room. "King Ghalen," she began, her voice carrying a measured grace, "consider our aid less of an act of equal trade, and more a first step toward mending past wrongs. The Darkhoon's shadows creeps near, threatening both our realms. United, we might stand taller than the coming darkness." She wore a sly smile on her lips. Ghalen mirrored her movement, rising with regal ease.
My lady, would you lend us the room to deliberate?
With the swish of cloaks, the elves exited to the grand hall. The doors barely shut before Fina let out a huff. "Luma's politics. My stomach churns. How do you all endure it?" Haldor snorted.
You truly believe their gifts stem from guilt? There must be some other motive here,
he said, a frown seizing his brow. Ghalen chuckled, a dry, knowing sound.
I do not believe it for a second. My grandmother, bless her soul, taught me peace requires an iron fist and ruthless negotiations. Yet my father,
his expression turned thoughtful,
said you can always trust self-interest to guide the powerful. Perhaps the elves see a strengthened human kingdom as a bulwark against the Darkhoon, conveniently aligned with our own needs. Wouldn't you agree, Lord Marshal?
Haldor's frown deepened, but a slow nod conceded the king's point. Ghalen welcomed the elves back into the chamber with open arms.
Words cannot capture our gratitude. We embrace your alliance and pledge to face any looming threat head-on. That is our promise to you.
D. Dorian sat alone in the small chamber within the castle. The air was heavy with a mixture of must and smoke from the open fireplace. He sat straight-backed in his chair, facing the door like a man awaiting judgment, determined to meet it with honor. The door creaked open. To Dorian's surprise, Elena slipped inside with effortless grace, followed closely by Pivera, and finally Ghalen. The door shut quietly behind them.
So begins the end.
We are gathered to decide the future of one Dorian Stormcrest, following the Great War and the rebellion therein, Pivara said, laying a few papers on the table. The collar of Dorian's shirt suddenly felt too tight, as if the noose was already around his neck. He straightened further in his chair. Ghalen cleared his throat.
Quarry Mill stands leaderless. The South is without direction. It is imperative that a strong leader replace Olivia. Someone who has the trust of the Southern people. Would you not agree, Banner General?
Dorian's mind swirled. A strong leader. But who remained? Cain was dead. Olivia too. And soon perhaps himself. Feared it might fall to General Harkim. A good soldier, but a man who would drive the South into another rebellion. Before his death, Dorian resolved he would at least try to guide Ghalen away from that mistake.
Who did you have in mind, my king?
He asked. Ghalen raised a brow, but it was Elena who replied. We have seen fit to appoint the one Southerner who, through great hardship, remained loyal to his king in the end. Dorian blinked, caught off guard.
If you are thinking of Harkim,
I want you to lead Quarry Mill, Stormcrest,
Ghalen said. There was a pause before he added.
On the advice of Lady Elena, who believes you are the best leader for the South at this moment. She has yet to steer me wrong.
I see,
Dorian replied quietly. A man granted his life back might be expected to feel joy, but all he felt was a hollow emptiness. He looked at Elena, then at the venomous smile she wore like a jewel, and thought grimly that he owed the devil his life.
What happened to Olivia?
He asked.
She hanged herself during the battle for the city,
Ghalen said.
I see,
Dorian repeated, his voice flat. All manner of rumors are spreading among the people, Elena said, leaning back in her chair. Ghalen bested her in single combat for her treason. He beheaded every rebel himself upon his return to the plaza.
Your rumors, you mean?
Rhiannon Whitmore's grandson, they say. The scribe's delicate fingers have turned to iron, Pivara added with a chuckle. Ghalen did not look amused.
The people believe what they want to believe.
So that will be your legacy then, Ghalen? The Iron Hand's grandson?
Dorian asked.
If that was your hope, I'm afraid I will disappoint you, Banner General,
Ghalen said.
I will try to be just like my grandmother, yes. But I will also try not to see the world in absolutes, as she did. I will do my best to see the good in people and impose mercy where it is deserved, like my father.
Dorian nodded. He liked that answer.
So, will you accept my offer?
Ghalen asked. Dorian hesitated. What real choice did he have? Would they not simply hang him if he refused? But far worse than the fear was the weight of his own conscience. He had betrayed everything he once stood for. Broken oaths, turned coat not once but twice, killed his old friend, murdered Olivia's son in cold blood. And what had it earned him? Promotion. His family would now be elevated to the highest seat in the South. But could he live with that guilt?
I accept,
Dorian said. As darkness fell over the castle, Lily was standing alone on a secluded balcony, watching the night sky. She heard a voice call out behind her.
There you are.
Elion set his wine cup aside, his hand reaching hesitantly to intertwine with hers.
What does the future hold for you, the light of my morning? Will you stay with the humans?
She took his hand, giving it a light squeeze, and smiled at him before letting it go again. Her eyes, captivated by the sky above, remained fixed as she spoke. If only I could be certain. Some part of my heart belongs to you. I can feel fragments of it, but my thoughts are broken. My soul feels torn. I cannot return home, nor can I stay here. I'll roam, but I won't abandon my kind. I will travel across the sea to seek out Ravemark and learn of his plans. And hopefully, during that time, I can find something to help me become whole once more. Some way to control this horrible power before it consumes me. That is my plan. Drawing her into his arms for a gentle embrace, he sighed.
then it would be pointless to try to dissuade you.
You possess many virtues, Dawnbreaker, but your stubbornness could very well be your most formidable ally, even against death itself.
I will go with them,
Tessara said, looking from Fina to Lily.
I will practice, and I will become strong, just like my father.
She smiled and clutched Haldor's hand.
But first, will you take me to the places on the papers, Haldor?
He smiled at her, lifting her into his arms.
I will take you to all the places he wished for you to see, and then I will personally take you to the City of Light. Not a thing in this world could stop me.
And so it was that Tessara, the first human ever granted the honor to study in the City of Light, rode alongside 2 elven commanders and one of the 12 council members, as well as the Lord Marshal of the Isle, as her escort beyond the ancient gates that had separated their 2 worlds for millennia. She was to learn as their equal, to bridge the enduring chasm between their peoples, and to serve as a beacon of hope for both races in the looming wars. She would tread the same path her father had once walked, strive to fulfill his legacy, and, above all, embody his enduring wisdom. As the girl looked up at the newly erected statue of her father, she whispered,
"The strong will protect the weak, Father, just as they were always meant to."